Even though this is a show about a boy and a girl, I want you to notice that we enter the show through this young man, which is already unique for television. We rarely get to be in the teenage, vulnerable years of a young boy. We don't do it often with Black girls either, but if we're gonna do it, we do it with Black girls more often. So the fact that we're doing it with a young Black boy was already, when it opened and we were with him, I was already like, ooh, this is gonna be different. So Karen Pittman and Wood Harris played Justin's parents, and they are just divine actors, just really, really good actors. But what I enjoyed about watching this play out in real time is Karen Pittman's character's name is Dawn. Dawn was supportive. She loved her son. She was afraid for his life. She wanted him to be successful, even though she knew that he had a few weaknesses as a student. But even though she was the biggest supporter, she was also the biggest hater, unintentionally. And if I'm a child who hasn't been on earth that long and thinks I know everything, it's easy for him to look at his mom and think she doesn't get me, she doesn't care about my happiness, she doesn't support me. And then growing up into a young adult and actually believing that and allowing that space to start to exist between parent and child. And it sucks, right? But that's life. And then some young adults mature out of that, right? They get to a place where they understand that their parents did the best they could, but also did what they thought was right. And sometimes you even get to learn what they did was right. And then some young adults never get to that point, and they spend their entire lifetime thinking that their parents are against them. And just think of what their life would have been like had they realized at some point, because no one's asking them to realize it when they're 17 years old, but had they realized it at some point, what would their relationship be like? So I enjoyed the complexity of that relationship. I also enjoyed the fact that Wood Harris's character would play mediator, basically. Like, I didn't like the fact that mom always had to be the bad guy implementing the boundaries, but I did appreciate the fact that Wood could, his name was Eric in the show, could relate to his son because he's actually been a boy, a young boy. But at the same time, give him information to help him mature and consider all of the other factors. So for example, mom says you can't do something. Dad doesn't just come behind him and go, forget about your mom. She crazy. She's this, she's that. You can go do it. Instead, he says, all right, son, if you want to be able to do these things, this is the information you need to give your mom. Your mom's afraid. She's scared. He just flat out, she's scared. So this is the information she needs. You want to do this? You got to do that. Boom. I was triggered a lot watching this show because we saw how society and just overall patriarchy starts us off not on an even playing field, but then expects us to meet each other at some place and understand and relate to each other. And what I mean is, as we know, most young boys are not allowed to be vulnerable or emotional. They're not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to feel things. And so then they become young men who hold everything inside and don't talk about things. And if they do talk about things, if it doesn't go their way, they shut back down. That gives them a reason to say, see, this is why I don't share. Instead of realizing that just because you share doesn't mean things are going to go your way. That's just not life. But they're not given an opportunity to learn that because they don't get an opportunity to think about their feelings at all. And then there's also, this thing about how we raise our daughters, but we just kind of keep our sons alive. Young girls, especially Black girls, are made to make decisions and have plans and learn to pivot and just kind of go with the flow of how things are going. And a lot of the times young boys aren't made to do that. And so they're just kind of lost in the sauce and floating. Like if sports isn't grounding them, then they just kind of aren't able to make their own decisions and find it unfair that they have to. And so then they cling on to young girls who are their same age, who have just as much life experience as them or just as little. and they kind of cling on to them for dear life because they're floating. But she's not floating. She's got a plan. And I'm not saying every young black girl in the world has a plan. And I'm not saying every young black and boy in the world does not have a plan. I'm making a generalization about how we raise our American children. And then in this case, specifically black children. And so I love that that was thematically playing out on the screen. That he was just floating and she was got my plan in place. So with that being said, I think that played a lot into their communication and miscommunication, which I enjoyed as well, because that's how people are, not just teenagers. Most people don't say the thing. So I loved watching them try to say something to each other and then delete it, because people do that. We do that all day and all night. And here I am yelling at the screen like, just say it. Just say the thing. But, you know, most people don't do that. But because this is a television show, they eventually had to say the thing. So we get to see these mature moments in these kids, which happens a lot on television. A lot of the times people watch TV and they go, man, those kids were way too mature. And it's like, yeah, but that's because at some point they have to be able to say the stuff because we're watching and we got to follow the story. And you can't talk around everything and then think your viewers can follow along. You know what I mean? At some point, somebody has to say the thing and just say it. And so I appreciated that it was hard for them to do that, but that they would actually do it. Jumping over to the character Justin, he is such an insecure and unsure little boy. A boy who's living a lifestyle that at least one of his parents didn't live. I'm not sure what Dawn, that's his mom, I'm not sure what her childhood was like, but I think we heard from Dad, like he didn't go to college and he kind of struggled to, you know, get his restaurant, blah, 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 blah. And then it led to him being able to make X amount of money as a chef. And I believe she's a lawyer or at least works in law in some kind of way. And so they're able to provide this lifestyle in Los Angeles where it's very expensive to live. Okay. So this is a boy who doesn't know struggle, who has a 2-parent household and 2 parents who love him, who are present, who are all up and through his business. And he is just floating and relying on a teenage girl to give him the answers and to keep him whole. Here she is as a 17-year-old girl who doesn't have all of the privileges that he has, but is still far more on top of it than he is because she just figures it out. And he sits and wallows in the unknown. And some of what she began to question and possibly find unattractive, this is my projection, possibly find unattractive is that he just wouldn't make a decision and stick to it and be okay if it didn't work out and just pivot if it didn't work out and just try something new. But first, try this. So for example, it wasn't clear to me until the very last episode that music was returning to his life. So it was new for him. The only reason he got back into music is because he met her, stole the driver's ed car so he could go and have a conversation with her, therefore got punished and ended up on his mom's old computer where he used to do music when he was 12. And now he's 16. So there's been 4 years that he hasn't been doing music at all. I didn't get that until the last episode. So when it was introduced to us in the first episode, possibly the second, I don't remember now, I just thought he was introducing his parents to his music for the first time. Not that he hadn't been doing music for 4 whole years and that he credited her, what's her name? Keisha, for bringing it back into her life, right? Back into his life. But music was something that he was interested in. We saw him working on it every now and again, usually when he was in a depressive state, but never really taking it on and saying, this is what I'm going to do. And this is a critique of the show more than it is a thought about him as a character, because I felt like he was sure about music, just unsure about if he'd be able to do it as a career, which didn't make sense to me because his parents never told him he couldn't. His parents never told him music wasn't good enough. Nobody ever said you can't do music. Music's not good enough. Don't look at that. Nobody ever said that. And so that was a disconnect for me. But then on the basketball thing, it was an even bigger disconnect because it wasn't clear to me why he wasn't playing basketball. He was on the team. He got into the school because of basketball and because his parents are paying the money and pulling the strings, right? Because they want him to have, thank you, Northwestern. They want him to have a good education. But it was clear that he is just not the best student, right? For whatever reasons. I think way later on in the season, we hear something about possible ADD, right? But in the beginning, they don't really tell us what it is. Might be ADHD, so forgive me. But in the beginning, they don't really tell us what it is. We don't know. Like, is it dyslexia? Does he have a problem reading? Is it just concentration? Is it the anxiety of having to do tests on time? Like, what is it? Or is it that his IQ is just low? And that's possible too. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody has the same IQ, but it wasn't clear. But we knew that he just wasn't a great student. Okay, so is he on the bench because he's not a great student? Then there was the information of, well, he's on the bench because they're only playing the people whose parents maybe give more money, or it was something political. And I was like, okay, but he got into the school because he can play basketball. He's not a good student, so he's only there because of his three-pointer. And y'all not putting him in the game? That didn't make sense to me. Not one bit. If white people are going to do anything, they're going to use a black boy for his body to play sports. So I was confused on that. But then mom played bad guy and said, hey, there's probably no future in this basketball thing. Justin got in his feelings about it, went to Keisha, and Keisha was like, I mean, well, you're not playing, you're ranked really low, et cetera, et cetera. So if this is what you want to do, why are you not doing it? So then he got into the next game, put himself into the next game, child, and did really well. So well that he outplayed the #1 ranked basketball player in the league. That didn't make no sense to me. How is this the #1 ranked person and he ain't getting nothing off in this game? Nothing. But okay, great. Our protagonist, which I loved that this story felt like it was more in Justin's eyes than Keisha's, because we don't get to see our young Black boys from this vulnerable position. And the only time you can really do that is when they're the protagonist. So yes, they're sharing this role as protagonist, but we start with him and we end with him. We're with him and his parents way more than we're with her and hers. So anyway, I love that. So anyway, so he plays a really good game and everybody's excited. And the coach is excited and the parents are excited. And then we never see him play basketball again. And mom said, you know, maybe you shouldn't play basketball next year. But that was before he did really well in the game. And she was like, oh my God, you were so great. But then we just kind of dropped it. And the only other time we hear about basketball is when they're on vacation and Justin says, I want to go to the NBA, which is random and wild to me because we ain't heard nothing else about basketball this whole time. But okay, you want to go to the NBA and the uncle says that ain't going to happen. And mom says he can do anything he wants to do, right? Because she's going to be supportive. But then when it came to going to Northwestern and he goes to the mixer and they talk about basketball, now he's all like not excited about it and not really caring about even playing basketball in Northwestern. So I'm like, yo, my dude, what do you want to do? Like, what is it? And so he was just floating. But to be honest with you, as much as it triggered me and got on my nerves, it is very relatable for a lot of our Black boys. Our Black girls are put on a path, made to stick to it, made to just understand and know and figure things out. And a lot of the times our young men are just allowed to kind of float until you're like right up against the line. And then it's like, now you got to make a decision. It's like, well, you want me to make a decision now? Haven't been making any decisions in this whole time. Now suddenly you want me to make choices that's going to affect my life? And it's like, yeah. So I really understood that, but I enjoyed all of those complexities. Another thing that came up for me was because he was so insecure, that something that kept coming up for me was because he felt like he was sharing for the first time, anytime she didn't respond in the way that he wanted her to respond, he took that as a reason to not share. Or he took her response as a reflection of how she feels about him. So when he randomly out of nowhere was like, I'm going to come to Howard, or should I? Because I don't even think he was making a decision then. It was still a question. Should I come to Howard? And she was like, no. And all he heard was, you don't like me, you don't want me. I can't talk to you. I shouldn't have ever brought it up. That was triggering for me as well, because we have to be able to teach young people, but especially our young men, as we're now trying to help them, learn to be emotionally mature at an earlier age, so that they don't have to be like our generation and those before us and kind of learn the hard way that just because you don't get the answer you want doesn't mean you don't get to speak your truth, and they also get to speak theirs, right? And it's not a space for you to shut down just because things didn't go your way, or shut down because they didn't say what you wanted to hear. You know what I mean? Oh, let me say this other thing. This is about Keisha. It wasn't until about episode 5 that somebody mentioned Keisha enjoyed taking pictures. We don't have any evidence of that. Then I noticed her Instagram handle was Keisha_JPEG. Okay, that's about pictures. But we don't see her taking pictures. We don't see her making scrapbooks. I don't see her holding a camera. And I feel like maybe somewhere between episode 5 and episode 8, we do see her with a camera, like once or twice, because then she starts taking pictures of him. But I'm like, yeah, but this is not her hobby. Not the way they casually threw out, like, well, we know you love taking pictures, or something they said. I don't remember what the dialogue was. But I was like, she does? She wants to be a photographer? Since when? That girl didn't talk about nothing but tracking Howard. I don't even know if I heard her say out loud she wanted to be a photographer. So that felt forced to me. It also felt unnecessary. Like, I don't know what her liking taking pictures added to the show, added to her character, added to anything. 2 things are my biggest notes. One is the timeline was very wonky for me. So I understand it's called Forever. Therefore, I understand we're likely going to jump around in their lives so we can actually get to see what Forever looks like, which means we're going to jump around in time in this particular in this season. But it's not that I didn't know where we were in time. I never knew where we were in their relationship in time. Does that make sense? So for example, they met on New Year's Eve, but his birthday is in March, and they were already not talking to each other before March. So I don't know if they actually talked all through January and most of February, because when they met, they went out and then they stopped talking to each other. And I don't know how long it was before he rolled up in the driver's ed car. And then they start talking to each other again, but then break up before March. And the reason I know that is because when she, as a 17-year-old, travels across the country to get a boy back that she was really only talking to for like 3 weeks, because she says, when he's listening to the voicemails, she says, happy birthday. What's his sign? Capricorn, Aquarius. I don't think she says Pisces, because if she said Pisces, then he could have been a late February baby. But she says Aquarius, which means he's a late March baby. So y'all stopped talking before March. You didn't get something going until maybe late January. So y'all talked to each other for a month, and that motivated you to go all the way across the country to go talk to him instead of waiting for him to come back instead of talking to him while he was in Los Angeles. And then anytime they would get back together, I didn't know how much time had passed with them being together. So I know we're at prom where she wasn't talking to him anymore. So that means she was talking to him less than she was with him. If they stopped talking to each other in, let's just call it March. Let's call it March 1st. They stopped talking to each other. They're not talking to each other. March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months for a teenager. Please. Now just please. And I understand that teenagers fall hard when they fall. But teenagers also fall often. Especially those who are attractive enough and might be playing sports and might be seen, blah, blah, blah. These teenagers be having 3 girlfriends in 1 year, 4 boyfriends in 1 year. They didn't talk to this one boy for a couple of months. Then they start talking to this other boy for a couple of months. Then they start talking to one in time for prom. Like every now and again, you'll get, well, let me not say every now and again, because I'm from the South. So a lot of people I know married their high school sweethearts. Okay. But that they were also in a relationship for 3 years. So they're together their sophomore year, their junior year, their senior year, and then they get married. These people really spent like a month with each other. If that. And then she decided to go across the world to go get him. Now that didn't make no sense to me. And we only got to see her. I know we saw her at track practice. I know we saw her working out with her ex and the trainer. I don't even know if we ever saw her do a track meet, which I also found very disappointing because I thought that there was a lot that could, come from that. We know she talked about track a lot, but we didn't really get to see her do it a lot. So anyway, so that timeline of like, if we take away all the time off, how much time did they actually get to have with each other? Which brings me to my biggest critique. These characters broke up episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, episode 5, and then again in episode 7 and 8. I'm not invested in them. I think they're cute. I'm enjoying their cuteness. I'm enjoying the complex relationship stuff that I talked about in the beginning, but I am not invested in them. I don't see them spend actual time together where they are fulfilling each other's needs in any kind of way, and I don't mean that sexually, until about episode 6. And it's like, yo, why should I be invested in them? If they in and out, why should I care? I'm just waiting on them to break up again. I can't get 2 to 3 episodes of a relationship that sticks, even if it's teenagery. Because the reason that this matters to me is because by the time they broke up in episode 8, I did not care. I didn't care. I'm like, okay, they done already broke up 6 other times. So how is this one any different? They'll be back together, child, whatever. I wanted to feel like, no, I know they need to choose themselves because they're going off to college, but no. And instead I was like, so they just broke up in the episode before that. They got into it over something, child. I don't remember what it was. I think it was when they were in the pool and he was trying to have sex with her raw and her dad had already said, hey, don't let him trap you. So then, she got upset with him and she walked off and they didn't talk to each other for days or weeks. And then it was like, girl, you got to come to this party with me. And he was like, bruh, you can't be in the house. You got to come to this party with me. And then they get to the party and the ethereal music starts. And it's as if they haven't seen each other in forever. No pun intended. And then they're back together. And I'm like, what did I need that for? How am I supposed to feel after breakup number 17? That's just like your friend calling you, yeah, girl, we done. Then she call you next week, oh, we together again. And then a month later, girl, I can't stand him. And then the next week, yeah, well, girl, I love him. You're not going to want to hear from your friend no more. And I hear everybody saying that high schoolers are weird like that. And I understand that that's everybody's, experience. That wasn't my experience in high school. And I don't mean mine as like just me. I mean mine as in watching the people who dated around me. This is not what high school love looked like for us. And even if it did, obviously it worked for everybody else. But as a viewer, I just didn't feel like I should be invested in their relationship. You know what I'm saying? I just felt like there's nothing for me to hold on to. It's not like, oh, we were together for our entire senior year and then had to break up. Then I'd be like, oh, dang, they were so good together. Like I want to be able to fight for this relationship. But instead I'm like, oh, to be honest with you, I said out loud at one point, just leave each other alone. Just leave it. And we probably had 3 more episodes to go. And so I can understand that might be the reality for a lot of people, probably even people who are my age. When they were in high school, they used to be jumping in and jumping out every other week. Cool. I wouldn't have been investing in it then either. I'd have been telling my friend, I don't want to hear about it. Stay with the man, the boy, or don't. But this jumping in and jumping out, if you're going to jump in and jump out, at least jump in for a few months and jump out. At least jump in for all of sophomore year and jump out for junior year and then jump back in right before prom. But that jump in, jump out every episode, I didn't have it in me.
And that's it. Want more content? Like, subscribe, and for notifications. Get notes on your script that get you unstuck at www.theprofessionalpen.com. I'm out.